Narrator. They hurt you, and then acted like nothing happened, as if your heart didn't ache, as if your trust wasn't fractured, as if their words, actions, or silence didn't carve into you in ways you couldn't explain. They moved on, smiled, continued their lives, posted selfies, sent casual texts, and you sat in that space, stunned, alone, asking the one question you weren't prepared for. Did I imagine all of it? This video is not just about heartbreak or betrayal. It's about that moment, when someone hurts you deeply and then denies your reality. Not just with words, but with their indifference. Today, we dive into the emotional and psychological devastation that comes when your pain is unseen, when someone pretends nothing happened, while you quietly bleed. This is not just your story. This is the story of millions. Chapter 1. The Reality Split Narrator. Imagine this. Someone walks into your life. They form a bond with you, be it love, family, friendship, or mentorship. They speak in promises. They show you warmth. You start to feel safe. Then one day, it shifts. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they lashed out in a way that was completely disproportionate. Maybe they betrayed your trust and denied it. Maybe they humiliated you in public and then laughed it off like it was nothing. You freeze. You try to confront it. But they calmly, coolly, confidently act like you're overreacting. They behave as though nothing occurred, as if your reaction, your truth, your pain is the real problem. This is where the fracture happens, not just between you and them, but within you. There's the part of you that remembers the hurt, and there's the part of you that's now questioning whether it really happened. You feel gaslighted, but worse, you feel erased. Chapter 2. How they justify it. Narrator, you want to understand. You want to make sense of their behavior. How can someone hurt you and then behave like it's fine? Here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They can't bear the weight of what they did. To admit it would collapse the image they hold of themselves. So they bury it. They rewrite it. They may say to themselves, "It wasn't that bad." They'll get over it. They're just too sensitive. I'm not responsible for how they feel. And in doing this, they ease their own conscience. They avoid the shadow side of themselves. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." This includes pretending your pain doesn't exist. They may laugh with friends while you cry alone. But don't confuse this for peace. That's avoidance, not wholeness. Chapter 3. The Burden of the Unacknowledged Narrator. Let's talk about your side of this. When someone denies your pain, they don't just invalidate your feelings. They push you into isolation. They place you in the role of the one who cares too much, the dramatic one, the one who won't let go. So you retreat. You stop bringing it up. You try to move on, but the wound remains. Not because you're weak, but because pain that isn't processed becomes pain that lingers. Unacknowledged hurt turns inward. You begin to blame yourself. Maybe I was too much. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I deserved it. Let's stop that voice right now. What you experienced was real, and the very fact that you're carrying it, thinking about it, still processing it, that's proof. People who don't care don't feel haunted. People who fabricate pain don't cry alone in their cars. You hurt because it mattered, because it was real, and because you're still looking for an answer that probably won't come from them. Chapter 4. The Shadow Side of Emotional Avoidance. Narrator, let's go deeper. Jungian psychology teaches us that every person has a shadow, a collection of unconscious traits, desires, fears, and shame we don't want to face. People who hurt you and then act indifferent are often in denial of their shadow. They suppress guilt, fear, regret, and shame. They do this by minimizing your experience. To acknowledge you were hurt would mean acknowledging that they did the hurting. And that means touching the very part of themselves they've buried, the part that once felt abandoned, ashamed, out of control. So instead, they protect their ego. They turn away. They silence you, not because you're wrong, but because your truth threatens their illusion of being a good person. It's not personal, but it is devastating. Chapter 5. The Slow Erosion of Trust. Narrator. What happens after they hurt you and act like it never happened? You stop trusting, not just them. You stop trusting yourself. You second-guess your instincts. You withdraw from new relationships. You become cautious with your joy. You wonder, will it happen again? This is the hidden consequence of emotional betrayal. Not just pain, but disconnection from your own inner voice. This is why healing is more than letting go. It's about rebuilding self-trust, relearning to believe your body, your heart, your memory, to say, yes, that happened, and I have the right to feel it, because you do. Chapter 6. The Wait for an Apology That Never Arrives. Narrator. One of the most torturous parts of this experience is waiting for something that may never come. An apology, an explanation, a moment of sincerity. But what if it never arrives? Some people will never apologize, not because they aren't aware, but because to apologize would mean confronting their entire self-image. It's easier for them to ghost you than to say, I was wrong. It's easier to laugh with others than to sit down and face the weight of what they did. So here's a hard truth. You may have to accept an apology you never got. That doesn't mean pretending it didn't matter. It means taking your power back, saying, I see what happened. I acknowledge it. I honor it. But I refuse to stay frozen in your silence. Chapter 7. Reclaiming Your Narrative. Narrator. You get to write the rest of your story. They don't get the final word. They don't get to define the meaning of your pain. Yes, they hurt you. Yes, they denied it. But now, you decide who you become from here. You become the one who speaks the truth. The one who feels deeply but rises bravely. The one who no longer waits for validation to honor their own emotions. Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Let this be the moment where you choose, not to forget, not to suppress, but to transform. Narrator. They may have acted like nothing happened, but you know what did. You carry the memory not as a wound, but as a scar that speaks of survival. And now it's your time to rebuild, to remember, to reclaim the healing, the shadow, and the return to self-narrator. They hurt you, and then acted like nothing happened. You carried the weight. You questioned your memory. You waited for an apology that never came. But now, we begin the second half of your journey. This part is no longer about them. It's about you, your healing, your rebirth, your reckoning. This is where the pain alchemizes into wisdom, where your silence transforms into clarity, and where you stop waiting and start rising. Carl Jung believed that what we do not bring to consciousness returns as fate. You cannot erase what happened, but you can transform it. That is your power, and this is your moment. Chapter 1. The Death of the Old Self. Narrator. When someone hurts you and then refuses to acknowledge it, something in you dies. Maybe it's your trust. Maybe it's your sense of safety. Maybe it's the innocent belief that people will always own their mistakes. This death is quiet. No funeral, no goodbyes. Just a slow erosion of something sacred within you. But death, in mythology and psychology, always precedes transformation. You may feel like you've lost a piece of yourself. But what if that piece was your need to be validated by those who cannot see you? This is not the death of your spirit. It's the death of the version of you that was willing to shrink, to chase, to beg for closure. Let it die, so something stronger can be born. Chapter 2. The Power of Inner Witnessing. Narrator, when the world refuses to witness your pain, you become your own witness. You sit with your feelings. You stop gaslighting yourself. You say to yourself with compassion, "That happened. It hurt, and it mattered." This is how you begin to reclaim your power, by no longer waiting for them to see you, and instead, seeing yourself. Carl Jung believed that healing required the union of the conscious and unconscious. You must become conscious of what's been buried, the sadness, the anger, the hope that still lingers, not to shame it, but to integrate it. You don't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. You heal by loving the part of you that was hurt. When no one else validates your pain, you must. Chapter 3. The Shadow Work. Narrator. Now we enter the depths. The place where Jungian psychology truly comes alive. The shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply unseen. It is the part of you that raged when you were dismissed. The part of you that wanted revenge, validation, or closure. It is the part that others told you to repress. Just move on. Let it go. Don't be so dramatic. But what you suppress, you do not heal. So now we invite the shadow in. We listen to the voice that says, "I didn't deserve that. They hurt me, and I never got justice. I still carry this because no one ever helped me carry it." This is not self-pity. This is self-honoring. You do not heal by bypassing the darkness. You heal by walking through it with awareness. And when you bring light to the shadow, you reclaim the parts of yourself you once disowned. Chapter 4. When you never get justice. Narrator, here's one of the hardest truths. You may never get justice. They may never apologize. They may never change. They may continue their lives, laughing, loving, pretending. And that's where the deeper healing begins. Because justice is not always external. Sometimes it's internal. Justice happens when you stop carrying their guilt, when you stop trying to make them understand, when you finally whisper to yourself, "I forgive myself for letting this linger so long. I release the illusion that they owe me healing." You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, and sometimes you have to walk away with no justice, no apology, no closure, because sometimes the absence of justice is the clarity. Chapter 5. Releasing the attachment to the wound. Narrator. There is a strange comfort in clinging to the wound. It gives you something to hold, something to define yourself by. But if you are not careful, the wound becomes your identity, and the person who hurt you still controls you. Not because they're present, but because you're still trapped in the echo of what they never gave you. So how do you let go? Not by forgetting, but by redefining. You say, "Yes, they hurt me. Yes, they acted like nothing happened. But I will not be frozen in that moment forever." You choose to live, not for them to see it, not to prove anything, but because your life deserves to be more than a reaction to their absence. This is not a weakness. This is liberation. Chapter 6. The Return to Self-Narrator. Eventually, you stop looking back. Not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. You begin to rediscover your voice, your laughter, your creativity, your dreams, all the things that were buried beneath the pain. You may still carry the scar, but it no longer defines you. It reminds you of what you survived, of what you learned, of who you became because of it, not in spite of it. This is the return, the sacred moment where you meet yourself again. Not broken, but whole, because you dared to walk through hell and still believe in healing. Chapter 7. What They Lost. Narrator. Let's end with something you may never say aloud. They lost you. They lost the chance to have someone who cared deeply, who loved honestly, who was willing to forgive, to grow, to heal, if only they had acknowledged what they broke. But they couldn't, or wouldn't. And in doing so, they forfeited you. They didn't walk away clean. They walked away empty, because they left the best parts of you behind. And maybe, just maybe, one day they'll feel it. Not regret, perhaps, but absence. And it will echo, even if they never tell you. Narrator, they hurt you, and acted like nothing happened. But now you've seen the truth. You've honored your pain. You've faced your shadow. You've taken back your narrative. And slowly, day by day, you are rebuilding yourself. Let this be the beginning. Not of forgetting, but of becoming. Not of suppressing, but of transcending. Not of waiting, but of walking forward. You are not what they did to you. You are what you choose to do with it now. They may have forgotten, but you remember. And now you rise.